She swiped left on the broke college student's profile without a second thought. 2 weeks later, he walked into her office as her new boss, the vampire king who'd been hiding in plain sight, and now he had 3 months to prove she'd judged him by all the wrong things. The fluorescent lights of Morrison Media buzzed overhead as Maya Chen stared at her computer screen, her third coffee of the morning already going cold. Around her, the marketing department hummed with the usual chaos. Phones ringing, keyboards clicking. Her coworker Jennifer loudly complaining about her weekend date. Maya tuned it out, focusing on the email that had just landed in her inbox. Subject line: all staff meeting, 10 a.m. Mandatory. New ownership announcement. Her stomach dropped. New ownership. In her 5 years at Morrison Media, they'd been through 3 different owners. Each time meant layoffs, restructuring, and months of uncertainty while everyone waited to see who'd survive the cuts. She glanced at the framed photo on her desk. Her grandmother's face smiled back at her, the woman who'd raised her after her parents died, who'd worked 2 jobs to put Maya through college, who'd passed away 6 months ago, leaving Maya with a mortgage she could barely afford and medical bills that kept piling up. She couldn't lose this job. Not now. At 9:55, Maya joined the stream of employees heading toward the conference room. The air felt thick with anxiety. People whispered in clusters, trading rumors. Private equity firm. Tech startup acquisition. Foreign investors. No one knew anything for certain. The conference room filled quickly. Maya found a spot near the back, standing against the wall between Jennifer and Marcus from accounting. The room smelled like stale coffee and fear. At exactly 10 a.m., the door opened. Their interim director, Susan Walsh, walked in first, her expression unreadable. Behind her came a man Maya had never seen before. Everything stopped, not just in the room, but in Maya's chest. Her heart forgot how to beat for 3 full seconds. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair that fell just slightly too long to be corporate standard. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, tailored perfectly to his lean frame. But it was his face that made her breath catch. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, and eyes the color of dark amber, almost gold in the overhead lights. Those eyes swept across the room, calm and assessing, as if cataloging every person present. When his gaze passed over Maya, it didn't pause, didn't linger, didn't show even a flicker of recognition. But Maya recognized him. Oh God. She recognized him. 3 weeks ago. Late night. Couldn't sleep. She'd opened the dating app she rarely used, the one Jennifer had convinced her to download 6 months earlier. Mindless swiping had become her insomnia cure. She'd seen hundreds of profiles blur together. And then, she'd seen his. The photo had been casual. A coffee shop. No suit. Hair slightly messy. Smiling. The profile had said, Darius, 28, graduate student. Interests, classic literature. Late night coffee. Honest conversation. Looking for something real. She'd read it twice. Then she'd read the part that said, currently between jobs. Living on a student budget. Can't offer fancy dates but can promise interesting ones. Maya had hesitated. He was attractive. The profile seemed genuine. But she'd been down this road before. Guys who had potential but no stability. Who had dreams but no plans. Who needed someone to believe in them while they figured their lives out. Her grandmother's voice had echoed in her head. You work too hard to support someone else's journey, Maya. Find someone who's already walking their own path. She'd swiped left. Didn't match, didn't message, didn't think about it again. Until, right now, Susan Walsh was talking. I'm pleased to introduce Darius Corvain. Mr. Corvain's acquisition of Morrison Media was finalized last week. He'll be serving as our new CEO, effective immediately. Darius Corvain, not a broke graduate student, the CEO, her new boss. The vampire king she'd later learn, though right now she had no idea about that part. Darius stepped forward. His voice was deep, measured, the kind of voice that made you want to listen. Thank you, Susan. He didn't smile, didn't try to charm them. I know transitions create uncertainty. I'll be direct about my intentions. This company has strong bones but weak execution. Over the next 3 months, I'll be evaluating every department, every process, every position. My goal isn't to gut the company. It's to build something sustainable. But I need people who are committed to excellence, not just collecting paychecks. Some of you will thrive in this new environment. Some won't. That's not a threat. It's reality. Around the room, people shifted uncomfortably. Maya's hands felt cold. I'll be scheduling one-on-one meetings with department heads this week. Town halls monthly. My door is open, but my standards are high. Questions? Silence. No one wanted to be the first to speak. Then Jennifer, because Jennifer never knew when to stay quiet, raised her hand. Will there be layoffs? Darius looked at her directly. If positions become redundant or if performance doesn't meet standards, yes, but I'd rather develop talent than replace it. If you're willing to grow, I'm willing to invest in that growth. Fair enough? Jennifer nodded, looking slightly pale. Anyone else? Marcus spoke up. What's your background, Mr. Corvain? Do you have experience in media? Darius's expression shifted slightly. Something that might have been amusement. I have experience in understanding what people want before they know they want it. I've built 3 companies from the ground up and turned 2 failing acquisitions into market leaders. Media is about telling stories that connect with people. I'm very good at understanding people. His eyes swept the room again. This time they landed on Maya, held for just a fraction of a second longer than necessary. She felt it like a touch. Then his gaze moved on. The meeting ended 10 minutes later. People filed out in subdued clusters. Maya stayed back, waiting for the crowd to thin. She needed a moment to process, to breathe, to figure out what this meant. She was almost to the door when she heard her name. Miss Chen. Could you stay for a moment? She froze. Turned slowly. The room had emptied except for Susan, who was gathering her papers, and Darius, who stood near the head of the table, hands in his pockets, expression neutral. Susan left quickly, closing the door behind her. The silence felt heavy. You're in marketing, Darius said. It wasn't a question. Senior content strategist, Maya managed. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. I've reviewed your portfolio. Your work on the Riverside campaign was exceptional. The narrative structure, the emotional resonance. It's exactly the kind of thinking this company needs more of. Thank you. She didn't know what else to say. He took a step closer. Not threatening, just closing the distance. You seem uncomfortable. I am fine. It's just a lot of change. He studied her face for a long moment. Have we met before? Maya's heart hammered. I don't think so. She was a terrible liar. She'd never been good at it. Darius tilted his head slightly. Strange. You seem familiar. Maybe I have one of those faces, she said, aiming for light and landing somewhere near panicked. Maybe. He didn't look convinced, but he didn't push. I'll be meeting with your department head next week. I'd like you to be there. Based on your work, I think you have insights worth hearing. Of course. Whatever you need. Good. He moved toward the door, then paused. One more thing. Yes? If you ever figure out where we might have met before, let me know. I don't like unsolved puzzles. Then he was gone, leaving Maya alone in the conference room, her pulse racing, her mind spinning. He didn't remember. Or he was pretending not to remember. Either way, she was standing in the wreckage of her own judgment, working for the man she'd dismissed as not worth her time. The man who now held her career in his hands. The next 3 days passed in a blur of anxiety and avoidance. Maya threw herself into work, staying late, arriving early, doing everything possible to stay off Darius Corvain's radar. It didn't work. On Thursday morning, an email appeared in her inbox, from Darius directly, not through Susan or HR. Subject line: Content Strategy Discussion. Friday, 2 p.m. My office. No greeting, no explanation, just the command. Maya stared at it for 10 full minutes before Jennifer appeared at her cubicle, practically vibrating with gossip. Did you hear? Hear what? The new CEO is a vampire. Jennifer said it the way someone might say he went to Yale. Matter of fact, slightly impressed. Maya blinked. What? Vampire. Apparently, he's been around for like 200 years or something. There's a whole thing. That's ridiculous, Maya said. Where did you even hear that? Marcus heard it from someone in legal who heard it from someone in HR. Apparently, it's why the acquisition went through so fast. Vampires have different legal status. Some old treaty thing. This is insane. You don't actually believe. Jennifer leaned in closer. Have you noticed he never arrives before sunset? That he doesn't eat in the cafeteria? That his eyes do that weird gold glow thing sometimes? I haven't noticed anything, Maya lied. She'd noticed everything. The way he moved too smoothly through doorways. The way people unconsciously gave him space, as if some primitive part of their brain registered predator. The way his skin seemed almost too perfect, too unmarked by time or sun. But vampires? That was fantasy. Fiction. Not real life. Jennifer shrugged. Believe what you want. I'm just saying, there's a reason he's buying up companies left and right. Immortality gives you time to build empires. She flitted away, leaving Maya with an inbox full of work and a head full of impossible thoughts. Friday arrived too quickly. At 1:45, Maya stood outside the executive suite, holding her tablet like a shield. The door to Darius's office was heavy wood, expensive looking, with his name on a brass plate. She knocked at exactly 2 p.m. Come in. His office was nothing like their previous CEOs had been. No golf trophies, no family photos, no corporate awards. Instead, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined 2 walls, packed with volumes that looked genuinely read rather than decoratively arranged. A massive desk dominated the space, its surface almost empty except for a laptop and a single fountain pen, and behind the desk, Darius. He looked up as she entered. Miss Chen. Thank you for being punctual. Of course. Sit. Please. Maya sat in one of the 2 chairs facing his desk, up close, in the natural light filtering through the windows. She could see details she'd missed in the conference room. The way his eyes weren't just gold. They were layered. Amber and honey, and something older. The way he held himself with absolute stillness when he wasn't moving. The way his hands, resting on the desk, showed no tremor, no fidget, no unconscious human restlessness. I've been reviewing the marketing department's work for the past 2 years, he said. Most of it is adequate. Serviceable. Forgettable. But your campaigns consistently stand out. You understand narrative in a way your colleagues don't. Thank you. You're welcome. But I didn't call you here to praise you. I called you here because I'm curious about something. He leaned back in his chair, those strange eyes fixed on her face. Why did you choose this company? Out of all the places you could work, why Morrison Media? Maya had prepared for questions about strategy, about campaigns, about her vision for the department. Not this. The job matched my skills, she said carefully. The salary was competitive. The work seemed meaningful. All true, Darius said, but not the whole truth. Maya's jaw tightened. With respect, I'm not sure what you're asking. I'm asking why someone with your talent is working at a mid-tier media company that's been circling the drain for 3 years. You could be at a top agency. Better pay. Better opportunities. Better everything. Yet you're here. Why? Because my grandmother got sick, Maya heard herself say. The words came out harder than she intended. Because I needed stable insurance and predictable hours so I could take care of her. Because fancy agencies don't care if you need to leave at 5 p.m. for doctor's appointments. Because I chose family over career advancement, and I'm not ashamed of that. Something shifted in Darius's expression, not quite softening, but something. I'm sorry for your loss. How did you? Your personnel file, he said simply. It notes the bereavement leave 6 months ago. Right. Of course. Silence stretched between them. Maya forced herself to hold his gaze. She wouldn't look away first, wouldn't show weakness. Your loyalty is admirable, Darius finally said, but it's also limiting you. Morrison Media is going to change. The question is whether you're willing to change with it. I can handle change. Can you? Because change isn't just about working harder or longer, it's about seeing things differently. Challenging assumptions, taking risks. I do all of that in my work. In your work, yes, but not in your life. Maya's breath caught. Excuse me? Darius stood, moving to the window, his back to her. You're careful, Miss Chen. Calculated. You make safe choices. Practical choices. There's nothing wrong with that. But it leaves you stuck. I'm not stuck. No? When's the last time you took a chance on something that didn't come with guaranteed returns? When's the last time you said yes to something uncertain? She wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him he had no right to analyze her like this. But the words wouldn't come, because he was right. He turned back to face her. I have a proposition. I'm creating a new position. Director of Strategic Narrative. It would report directly to me. The salary is double what you're making now. The responsibilities are significantly greater. And it would require you to trust me. Trust you? To see where this company can go. To help build something that matters instead of just maintaining something adequate. To stop playing it safe. Maya's pulse hammered in her ears. Why me? Because you're better than you think you are. And because I want people around me who are hungry to prove something. Are you hungry, Miss Chen? She should say no, should recognize this for what it was. A powerful man offering her something that seemed too good to be true. But beneath the suspicion, beneath the caution, something else stirred. Something that sounded like her grandmother's voice. Sometimes safety is just another word for standing still, baby girl. I'm interested, Maya said slowly. But I have questions. Good. Ask them. Are you actually a vampire? The words were out before she could stop them. Darius's eyebrows rose slightly. That's your first question? It seems relevant. He studied her for a long moment. Then, he smiled. It was the first time she'd seen him smile. It transformed his face completely. Made him look younger, more human. Almost. Yes, he said simply. I'm a vampire. I've been alive for 247 years. I don't drink human blood anymore. Haven't for a century. I exist under legal protections established by the Corvain Accords of 1823, which my grandfather negotiated. Any other questions? Maya's mind reeled. 100 questions, 1,000. She grabbed for the most practical one. Does that affect how you run the company? It affects everything. I think in decades, not quarters. I invest in people because I have time to see long-term growth. I don't need to extract maximum profit immediately because I'm not racing against mortality. It makes me a better leader. Or a more patient predator. His smile faded. That's a fair concern. Honestly, both. I'm predatory by nature. But I've learned to channel that into building rather than destroying. The businesses I acquire don't just survive. They thrive. The people I invest in become the best versions of themselves. Not because I'm kind, but because I'm strategic. Maya should have been terrified. Should have made an excuse and walked out. Instead, she found herself leaning forward. What do you get out of it? Out of what? Investing in people. Building companies. You've been alive for over 2 centuries. You could just exist. Accumulate wealth. Why do this? Darius returned to his desk but didn't sit. He remained standing, hands braced on the surface, looking at her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Because immortality without purpose is a special kind of hell, he said quietly. I've watched empires rise and fall. I've seen people I cared about grow old and die while I stayed the same. I've lived through wars and plagues and revolutions. You know what I learned? Nothing matters except the connections we build and the legacy we leave. He paused. Money means nothing if you're alone. Power means nothing if you have no one to share it with. I build companies because it gives me a reason to connect with people, to invest in their futures even if I won't be part of them forever. It's the closest thing to mortality I can experience, watching something grow, change, become more than I could make it alone. The vulnerability in his voice caught Maya off guard. This wasn't the calculated CEO. This was something raw underneath. Why are you telling me this? Maya asked. We barely know each other. Because you asked, and because if you're going to work directly with me, you need to understand who I am. Not the corporate version, the real version. And who are you? Really? Darius sat down finally, that unsettling stillness settling over him again. I'm someone who's made a lot of mistakes over a very long life. Someone who's learned that the things that seem important in the moment, status, appearance, first impressions, they're usually the things that matter least. He looked at her meaningfully. I'm also someone who doesn't give up easily once I've decided something matters. The air between them felt charged. Maya's throat was dry. About the position, she said, trying to steer back to safer ground. What would it actually involve? Strategy development. You'd work with every department to ensure our messaging aligns across all platforms. You'd have a team of 5, your choice who. Budget authority up to $500K without my approval. And you'd be in my inner circle. Every major decision you'd have input. That's a lot of responsibility. You can handle it. You don't know that. I do. He opened a drawer and pulled out a folder. These are the campaigns you've worked on in the past 5 years. I didn't just review them. I tracked their performance metrics 6 months out, a year out, 2 years out. Do you know what I found? Maya shook her head. Every single one performed better over time than it did initially. That's rare. Most campaigns peak early and fade. Yours build momentum. They create lasting brand affinity. That's not luck. That's understanding human psychology at a fundamental level. He slid the folder across the desk. You see patterns other people miss. You understand what makes people trust, believe, invest emotionally. Those are the skills I need. The skills this company needs. Maya opened the folder. Inside were printouts of her work, covered in annotations in precise handwriting. He'd analyzed every word, every image choice, every strategic decision. The level of attention was staggering. You really studied these. I study everything that interests me. And I interest you? As an employee? Darius held her gaze. As a person who makes me curious. Maya's heart did something complicated in her chest. She needed to redirect this, to establish boundaries. Mr. Corvain. Darius, she corrected. I need to be honest about something. I know, he said. The dating app. 3 weeks ago. You swiped left. The bottom dropped out of Maya's stomach. You knew. You recognized me. The whole time. I recognized you the moment I walked into that conference room. His voice was calm, matter of fact. I've been waiting to see if you'd admit it. Why didn't you say something? Because I wanted to see what you'd do. Whether you'd be honest, whether you'd hide it. It told me something about your character that you tried to pretend we'd never met. Maya's face burned. I was embarrassed. I understand. But there's no need to be. You made a decision based on the information you had. That's rational. The information was misleading, Maya said. The profile made it seem like you were. Broke? Directionless? A bad investment? Yes. All of that. Darius leaned back. The profile was accurate. At that moment, that's exactly what I was. What? 3 weeks ago, I was between acquisitions. I'd liquidated my previous holdings and hadn't yet committed to the next venture. I was auditing graduate business courses for fun because I'd never formally studied modern corporate theory. I was literally living on a budget because I'd put everything into escrow. You were actually broke? Temporarily cash poor, he corrected, but yes. The profile wasn't a lie. I wanted to see who would be interested in me without the trappings of wealth and power, who would see the person instead of the position, and I failed that test. You made a practical choice. You were looking for stability, someone established. There's no shame in knowing what you need. But now? Now you're my boss. Now I'm not asking you on a date, Darius said. I'm offering you a job. They're separate things. Are they? The tension stretched. Darius was the first to break it. Take the weekend to think about it, he said, sliding a document across the desk. Here's the formal offer. Salary, benefits, everything in writing. Review it. Consider it. Let me know Monday. Maya took the envelope with shaking hands. And if I say no, then you stay in your current position. No retaliation. No punishment. I don't operate that way. She stood. This is a lot. I know, but I also know you're capable of handling it. You just need to believe that about yourself. Maya walked to the door, her mind spinning. She paused with her hand on the handle. Why did you create a dating profile if you didn't need to date? His answer came quietly. Because even immortals get lonely, Miss Chen. And sometimes we wonder if anyone would want us for something other than what we can provide. She turned back. Did anyone? Swipe right? A few. But they weren't you. Her breath caught. Why does that matter? Because in 247 years, I've gotten good at recognizing when someone sees the world the way I do. When someone understands that the best stories aren't about grand gestures, they're about small moments of genuine connection. Your work shows me you understand that. The dating profile showed me you value substance. Even if you didn't see it in me. I should have looked closer, Maya said softly. Maybe, or maybe this is better. Now we get to start fresh. No assumptions. Just possibility. She left before she could say something foolish. The elevator ride down felt like surfacing from deep water. By the time she reached her desk, Jennifer was waiting, eyes wide with curiosity. Well, how did it go with the Vampire King? Maya sat down, clutching the offer envelope. I have no idea, she said honestly. But I think my life just got very complicated. Maya didn't sleep that weekend. She read the offer letter 17 times. Looked up Darius Corvain's business history, which was extensive and impressive. Found articles about the Corvain Accords, the 19th century treaty that had granted vampires legal personhood in exchange for regulatory oversight. Discovered that Darius had been part of the negotiations, a young vampire who'd argued for integration rather than isolation. She found photos of him from different decades. Always the same face, but the eyes changed. Harder in the early years. Wearier, the recent photos showed something different. A man who'd learned to carry his immortality with grace instead of burden. On Sunday night, she sat at her kitchen table with her grandmother's journal, the one she'd kept during her final months. Maya opened it to a page she'd read 100 times. Your problem, baby girl, has always been that you're so afraid of making the wrong choice that you forget making no choice is still a choice. And it's usually the worst one. Stop waiting for permission to want something. The words hit differently now. Maya thought about the offer. The risk. The impossibility of working that closely with Darius without the attraction becoming a problem. because she could admit it now, in the privacy of her apartment at midnight. She was attracted to him, not just to his appearance, though that was undeniable, but to the way he saw her. Really saw her, the way he'd analyzed her work with the same intensity most people reserved for things they loved. The way he'd been vulnerable about loneliness when he could have stayed hidden behind corporate authority. She thought about his question. When's the last time you took a chance on something that didn't come with guaranteed returns? The answer was never. She'd always played it safe, always chosen security over possibility. And where had it gotten her? Comfortable. Stable. Stuck. Monday morning, Maya arrived at the office before sunrise. She'd made her decision sometime around 3 a.m., and she needed to tell him before she lost her nerve. The executive floor was quiet, most lights still off, but Darius's office glowed. Of course he was already there. She knocked. The door opened before her knuckles left the wood. He stood there in shirt sleeves, no jacket, looking like he'd been working for hours. His eyes met hers, and something flickered there. Anticipation, maybe. Or hope. Miss Chen. You're early. I need to tell you something, Maya said. Before I accept the position. Of course. Come in. She walked past him, catching the scent of old books and something she couldn't name, something not quite human but not threatening either, just different. He closed the door. I want the job, Maya said, turning to face him, but I need to establish some boundaries. All right. This stays professional. Whatever happened, or didn't happen, with the dating app, that's not relevant here. I'm your employee. You're my boss. Those lines don't blur. Understood. And if at any point that becomes complicated, if there's any indication that our working relationship is compromised by personal feelings, I reserve the right to step back into my old position. No questions asked. No resentment. Fair. Darius moved to his desk but didn't sit. He mirrored her stance, standing facing her across the space. Anything else? Maya took a breath. Why did it bother you? That I swiped left? He was quiet for a moment. When you've lived as long as I have, he finally said, you get used to people wanting you for what you can give them. Access. Money. Power. Immortality. For some, the profile was an experiment, a way to see if anyone would be interested in the person underneath all that. Most people swiped left because broke graduate student doesn't match well with successful professional. I expected that. But you? He stepped closer. You swiped left for the right reasons. Because you were protecting yourself. Because you'd learned to value stability. Because you'd been hurt before by people who had potential but no follow-through. That wasn't rejection. That was self-preservation. And it made me want to know you more. That's not professional, Maya said, but her voice wavered. No, Darius agreed. It's not. Which is why I'm telling you now, before you accept, so you can make an informed choice. I'm attracted to you. I have been since the first time I saw your work, before I ever created that dating profile. Reading your campaigns felt like reading someone's mind, and discovering they thought the way I did. The profile was my awkward Immortal attempt at seeing if the person matched the work. You're attracted to my marketing skills? He smiled slightly. I'm attracted to the mind that creates narrative structures designed to make people feel less alone. I'm attracted to someone who chooses honesty over image management. I'm attracted to the fact that you're standing here setting boundaries instead of just taking what I'm offering because it's advantageous. But, his voice firmed, I've had 247 years to learn self-control. I can work with you professionally without crossing lines. I can mentor your career without leveraging my position. I can admire you without acting on it. The question is whether you can trust that. Maya's heart hammered. This was insane. This was a terrible idea. This was the least safe choice she'd ever been offered. I can trust that, she heard herself say. Good. He returned to his desk, the moment shifting from personal to professional so smoothly it almost gave her whiplash. Then welcome to the leadership team, Director Chen. We have a lot of work to do. The first month was brutal. Darius hadn't been exaggerating about his standards. He expected excellence not as an aspiration but as a baseline. Maya found herself working 12-hour days, restructuring the entire marketing approach, hiring new team members, firing people who couldn't adapt. But he was there for all of it. Every late night, Darius was still in his office. Every question she had, he answered. Every strategy she proposed, he challenged, not to undermine but to strengthen. He pushed her harder than anyone ever had. And she discovered she loved it. Loved being seen as capable of more. Loved having her ideas taken seriously. Loved working with someone who matched her intensity. They fell into a rhythm. Morning meetings over coffee that Darius never drank but kept in his office for her. Afternoon strategy sessions where they'd argue about messaging and target demographics. Evening debriefs where they'd review the day's progress. It was professional. Entirely professional. Except for the moments it wasn't quite. The way his hand would brush hers when passing documents. The way his eyes would linger half a second too long when she presented ideas. The way he'd smile at her jokes. Real smiles. Not the corporate mask he wore for everyone else. 6 weeks in, Maya was reviewing quarterly projections when Jennifer appeared at her new office door. Bigger office now. Window view. Director-level perks. You're working late again, Jennifer observed. Lots to do. Jennifer leaned against the doorframe. Can I ask you something? As long as it's not about work. I'm maxed out on strategic planning for today. Are you sleeping with him? Maya's head snapped up. What? The Vampire King. Darius, everyone's wondering. We're not, Maya said firmly. We're colleagues. We work together. That's all. Jennifer's expression said she didn't believe it. You know he's never done this before, right? Done what? Hired someone into his inner circle this quickly. I did research. Every other company he's acquired, he spent at least 6 months evaluating before making any leadership changes. He promoted you in 2 weeks. That's different. Why? Because I was already doing the work. Because the position needed to be filled. Because he looks at you the way vampires probably shouldn't look at their employees. Jennifer. I'm serious. I've seen him in meetings. He's all business. Cold. Calculating. But when you're presenting, when you're talking, he looks at you like you're the only person in the room. Like everything you say matters, and you look at him the same way. I don't. You do. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's even good. But don't lie to yourself about it. After Jennifer left, Maya sat in the silence of her office, the city lights spreading out below her window. Was she lying to herself? She'd been so careful to keep everything professional. But professional didn't explain why her pulse jumped every time Darius walked into a room. Professional didn't explain why she'd started wearing slightly nicer clothes, taking more care with her appearance. Professional didn't explain why she looked forward to their morning meetings with an intensity that had nothing to do with work. Her phone buzzed. A text from Darius. Are you still in the office? Yes. Working on the Q4 projections. My office. When you have a moment. Not a request. An invitation. Maya saved her work and walked down the hall. The executive floor was empty except for them. It always was this late. Safety in numbers had long since disappeared. Darius's office door was open. He stood by the window, looking out at the city. He'd loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves. It was the most casual she'd ever seen him at work. You wanted to see me? Come here, he said quietly. I want to show you something. Maya approached, standing beside him at the window. The city sprawled beneath them, Millions of lights in the darkness. What am I looking at? This, Darius said. All of it. Every light is a person. A life. A story. When I was younger, I used to hate cities. Too many heartbeats. Too many reminders of mortality. Too many people who would age and die while I stayed the same. His voice was soft, almost hypnotic. But I've learned to love them. Because every light represents someone trying. Someone working late like you. Someone dreaming. Someone fighting for something that matters to them. This company, these employees, they're not just resources to me. They're lights, and I want to make sure they burn brighter. Why are you telling me this? Maya asked. Because you asked me once what I get out of building companies. This is the answer. I get to be part of something that grows and changes. I get to help people shine brighter than they knew they could. Like you. Maya's breath caught. Me? When I first read your work, it was like finding another light that burned the same frequency as mine. Do you know how rare that is? How lonely it gets when you can't find anyone who sees the world the way you do? He turned to face her. I've lived 247 years, Maya. I've known thousands of people. Loved some of them. Lost all of them eventually. And I learned to be content with that. To appreciate the temporary nature of connection. But then I read your campaigns and I thought, here's someone who understands. Who gets that the best stories are about being seen. Really seen. Not despite our flaws, but including them. This is not staying professional, Maya whispered. I know. He didn't move closer. Didn't touch her. Just stood there. Close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his eyes. Close enough to feel the coolness of his skin. I'm going to ask you something, Darius said. And I need you to answer honestly. Okay, that night on the dating app, if the profile had been different, if it had said CEO instead of graduate student, rich instead of broke, established instead of uncertain, would you have swiped right? Maya wanted to lie. Wanted to say yes, of course. But he'd asked for honesty. Probably, she admitted, but for the wrong reasons. Explain. I would have seen the security, the stability, the practical advantages. I would have made a strategic choice. And now? Now I know you're all those things and it doesn't matter. What matters is that you see me. You push me. You believe I'm capable of more than I believed about myself. You make me want to take risks. You make me want to be brave. That's not about your money or your position. That's about who you are. Darius's expression shifted. Something vulnerable breaking through. Can I tell you what I saw in your profile? That night when I created mine specifically hoping you'd see it? Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. I saw someone who'd been hurt by people who made promises they couldn't keep. Someone who'd learned to protect herself by choosing security over uncertainty. Someone who was lonely but pretending she was just fine on her own. I recognized it because I've spent 2 centuries doing the same thing. He took a careful breath. I made that profile because I wanted to see if you'd take a chance on someone who had nothing to offer but themselves. You didn't. And I understood why. But I also thought, what if I could prove to her that uncertainty isn't always dangerous? What if I could show her that sometimes the risky choice is the right one? This is a terrible idea, Maya said. Her voice shook. You're my boss. The power dynamic is completely inappropriate. There are a dozen reasons why this is wrong. I know. But I don't care. The words hung between them. Darius smiled. Slow, warm, real, good. Because I don't care either. He still didn't touch her. 3 months, he said. What? Give me 3 months to prove that this can work. That I can be your boss and your colleague and your friend and maybe eventually something more. 3 months of absolute professionalism at work. No crossing lines. No leveraging my position, just showing you that I can keep my promises. And after 3 months, After 3 months, if you still feel the same way, we'll figure it out together. As equals. No power imbalance, no pressure. Just two people who see each other clearly. Maya should say no, should walk away, should choose the safe option. Instead, she heard her grandmother's voice. Stop waiting for permission to want something. 3 months, she agreed, but we have rules. They established the rules that night. At work, pure professionalism. No personal conversations in front of others. No lingering looks. No special treatment. Maya would earn everything she got through merit alone. Outside work was different. They could talk, could get to know each other, could explore the connection without the weight of corporate hierarchy. But nothing physical. Nothing that could compromise their working relationship. For 3 months, they would prove they could be colleagues first. The next morning, Maya arrived to find her team already assembled in the conference room. Darius had called a department-wide meeting. He stood at the head of the table, every inch the CEO. Cold, professional, authoritative. Director Chen has restructured our entire marketing approach, he said. Over the next quarter, we'll be implementing her strategy across all platforms. This will require significant changes from everyone. I expect full cooperation. He didn't look at Maya any differently than he looked at anyone else. Didn't show even a flicker of what had passed between them the night before. It should have reassured her. Instead, it stung. After the meeting, Maya returned to her office. Focused on work. Ignored the hollow feeling in her chest. She'd agreed to this. 3 months of professionalism. She could handle it. Lunchtime, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The message was simple. You look disappointed this morning when I didn't acknowledge you differently. Good. That means the boundaries are working. You'll respect me more for keeping them than you would if I bent them. Trust me. Maya stared at the message. Then texted back. How did you get my personal number? I'm a 247-year-old vampire CEO. I have resources. That's creepy. That's honest. Are we still on for coffee tonight? 8 p.m.? The cafe near your apartment? Maya hesitated. Then typed. Yes. His response came immediately. Good. I promise to be appropriately boring and professional. Wear something comfortable. We're going to talk about quarterly projections and target demographics for 3 hours. She smiled despite herself. Sounds terrible. It will be. But you'll enjoy it anyway. He was right. That night they sat in a quiet corner of the cafe. Laptops open, spreadsheets displayed. To anyone watching, they were colleagues working late. But between the discussions of market penetration and consumer engagement, other conversations wove through. Tell me about your grandmother, Darius said, highlighting a cell in his spreadsheet. Maya adjusted a formula on hers. What do you want to know? What made her special? She believed in people, Maya said, even when they didn't believe in themselves. She'd see potential in everyone. The cashier at the grocery store who wanted to be an artist, the neighbor kid who dreamed of being a doctor. She'd encourage them, help them, make them believe it was possible. Sounds like someone else I know, Darius said quietly. She sounds like you, actually. Maya's hand stilled on her keyboard. I'm not like that. You are. You see things in people they don't see in themselves. It's why your campaigns work. You identify what people need to hear, what they need to believe about themselves, and you give them permission to believe it. That's what your grandmother did. That's what you do. She looked up. He was watching her with those gold eyes, and for a moment the cafe faded away. How do you do that? She asked. Do what? Make spreadsheets feel intimate. He smiled. 247 years of practice. Also, everything is intimate when you're paying attention to the right things. They stayed until the cafe closed, walked out into the cool night. Maya's apartment was 3 blocks away. Darius walked with her, hands in his pockets, careful not to touch. At her building, he stopped. 3 months feels like a long time, Maya said. To a human, maybe. To me, it's a blink, I can wait. What if we change our minds? What if after 3 months we realize this was just attraction? Then we'll have a great working relationship. And a funny story about the time we almost complicated things. His expression was serious. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. Why not? Because I've been alive long enough to know the difference between wanting someone and recognizing someone. I've wanted plenty of people. But I've only recognized a few. People who think like me. See like me. Understand the world the same way. You're one of them. And that doesn't fade in 3 months or 3 years or 3 decades. Maya's throat tightened. What if I'm not ready in 3 months? Then we extend it. 6 months. A year. Whatever you need. I have time. That's my advantage. But you don't, Maya said. You'll stay the same and I'll get older, and eventually you'll be 50 and I'll still look 30, and people will think I'm with you for your money. Or you'll be 70 and I'll still be here, and you'll worry about being a burden. Or you'll be 90 and I'll have to watch you fade, like I've watched everyone else I've ever cared about. His voice remained steady, but something painful flickered in his eyes. I've thought about all of it, every scenario, every outcome, and I'd rather have you for whatever time you'll give me than spend eternity wondering what if. Even if it ends badly. Especially then. Because bad endings mean we tried. They mean we chose connection over safety. They mean we lived instead of just existing. He stepped back. 3 months, Maya. Let me prove I can keep my promises. The 3 months became a study in restraint. At work, Darius was exacting. He challenged every idea Maya presented, pushed her to think bigger, demanded excellence, never gave her special treatment, never showed favoritism. If anything, he was harder on her than anyone else. Because you can handle it, he said during a particularly brutal strategy review. Because I know you're capable of more. Because I won't insult you by lowering my standards. But outside work, in the quiet spaces between professional obligations, something else grew. Coffee twice a week. Always working, always professional, but the conversations that wove between the work revealed everything. She learned about his early years, the fear and confusion of becoming a vampire at 23, the decades of isolation, the slowly learned control, the choice to use immortality for building instead of taking. He learned about her childhood, the loss of her parents, her grandmother's strength, the fear of abandonment that made her choose security over risk, the loneliness she'd learned to disguise as independence. They never touched, never crossed the boundaries they'd established, but intimacy grew anyway. In shared glances across conference rooms, in text messages about nothing important, in the way he remembered how she took her coffee, in the way she noticed when he was tired, even though vampires supposedly didn't get tired. 8 weeks in, Morrison Media launched Maya's new campaign. The response was overwhelming. Industry publications called it revolutionary. Engagement metrics exceeded projections by 400%. The board of directors sent congratulations. And Darius said nothing. At the celebration party, he gave a speech praising the entire team. Mentioned Maya's leadership in the same breath as everyone else's contributions. Didn't single her out. Didn't acknowledge that this had been her vision from the start. Maya told herself it was appropriate. Professional. Exactly what they'd agreed to. But it hurt. She left the party early, went home, tried to focus on the victory instead of the hollow feeling. Her phone rang at midnight. Darius. She almost didn't answer. Hello? Can I come over? His voice was quiet. It's midnight. I know this isn't appropriate. I know that too. But I need to tell you something, and I can't wait until morning. Maya buzzed him up. He arrived 5 minutes later, still in his suit from the party, still perfect and composed. Except his eyes. His eyes looked almost wild. You're angry, he said. I'm not. You are. You think I didn't acknowledge your work tonight. You think I dismissed what you accomplished. I understand why you did it, Maya said. We have boundaries. You were maintaining them. Maintaining them? He laughed, sharp and humorless. I was dying inside. Do you know how badly I wanted to tell everyone in that room that you're brilliant? That watching you bring this campaign to life has been the most extraordinary thing I've witnessed in a century? That you've exceeded every impossible expectation I had? Then why didn't you? Because if I started talking about you, I wouldn't stop. Because everyone would see it. The way I look at you, the way I feel about you. Because I promised you professionalism, and I keep my promises even when it kills me. He paced her small living room like a caged thing. But I can't not tell you. Not tonight. Not when you accomplished something this significant. So I'm here, breaking our rules, because you need to know. That campaign? It's not just good. It's transformative. It's going to change how this industry thinks about narrative marketing. And it's all you. Your vision. Your execution. Your brilliance. Maya's chest felt tight. You could have said that at work. I could have said the words. But you would have heard the professional version. The CEO congratulating his director. I needed you to hear the real version. The man who's in love with you telling you that watching you shine is the best thing that's happened to him in 247 years. The world stopped. You're in love with me? Completely. Entirely. Probably have been since I read your first campaign. Definitely have been since you set those boundaries and made me prove I could respect them. He stopped pacing. Looked at her directly. And I know we have another month. I know I'm not supposed to say this yet. But I can't watch you doubt yourself for one more second. I'm in love with you, Maya. With your mind. With your heart. With the way you see people. With the way you make me want to be better than I am. With everything. Maya couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. I didn't come here for a response. I came here because you earned recognition tonight and I failed to give it to you publicly. This is me correcting that mistake. Telling you privately what I couldn't say in front of others. You're extraordinary. And I'm honored to work with you. He moved toward the door. Wait, Maya said. He turned. I'm scared, she admitted. Of me? Of this. Of wanting something that might not last. Of taking a risk and getting hurt. Of being another person you have to watch fade while you stay the same. Darius's expression softened. Those are all valid fears. What do I do with them? You feel them anyway. You let them exist without letting them control you. You choose what you want despite being afraid. Because the alternative is choosing nothing. And nothing is guaranteed to hurt. He reached for the door handle. One more month, Maya. Then we'll figure this out together. After he left, Maya sat in the silence of her apartment. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. So the Vampire King just left your building. Want to explain why your boss was visiting at midnight? Maya stared at the message. Then typed. Not yet. But soon. The final month was torture. Every morning meeting. Every strategy session. Every moment of forced professionalism while her heart screamed to close the distance between them. But Darius kept his word. Never wavered. Never pushed. Just waited. With 2 weeks left, Maya's department won a national marketing award. This time, at the ceremony, Darius did acknowledge her. Publicly. Specifically. This award belongs to Director Chen, he said from the podium. Her vision, her execution. Her brilliance. I'm just fortunate enough to work with her. Their eyes met across the room. He smiled. She smiled back, and everyone saw it. The whispers started immediately. The knowing looks, the speculation. After the ceremony, Maya found Darius on the terrace, looking at the city lights. We're not very good at hiding it, she said. No, he agreed. We're terrible at it. Does that bother you? He considered. A month ago, yes. Now? I'm tired of hiding how I feel about you. I'm tired of pretending you're just a colleague when you're so much more. But we had an agreement. We did. And in 2 weeks it's fulfilled. So I'm asking you now, when those 2 weeks are up, what do you want? Maya looked out at the lights. Thought about her grandmother. About safe choices and standing still. About the difference between security and actually living. I want to try, she said. Even though it's complicated. Even though I'm scared. Even though there are no guarantees. I want to try. Darius's hand found hers. Cool skin against warm. I promise you, he said quietly. I will earn this every day. I will prove that I can be your partner and your colleague. I will respect you, push you, support you, and I will never make you regret choosing uncertainty over safety. What if it doesn't work? Then we'll have tried, and that's better than wondering. The 2 weeks passed. On the final day, Maya submitted her formal request to HR. A disclosure of personal relationship. Acknowledgement of potential conflict of interest. Request for oversight to ensure no favoritism. Darius submitted the same form. That evening they had dinner. A real date. No laptops, no spreadsheets, no work discussion. Just two people getting to know each other without barriers. Tell me something, Maya said. Something you've never told anyone. Darius thought for a moment. I'm afraid, he admitted. Of what? Of losing you. Not to time, though that's there too. But of losing you because I can't give you normal. I can't give you children. Can't grow old with you. Can't be the conventional happy ending. All I can give you is time and attention, and a promise that I'll choose you every day for as long as you'll have me. Maya reached across the table, took his hand. I don't want normal, she said. I want real. And this feels more real than anything I've ever had. They left the restaurant hand in hand, walked through the city, talked about everything and nothing. When they reached her building, Darius pulled her close. Finally allowed himself to touch her the way he'd been restraining himself from for 3 months. This is real, he said against her hair. This matters. You matter. I know, Maya whispered. And that's what terrifies me. Good. Terror means you're paying attention. It means you understand the stakes. He pulled back enough to see her face. I'm going to love you as long as you'll let me. Whether that's 5 years or 50, whether that's until you decide this is too complicated or until time makes the choice for us. Every day I get with you is a gift. And I don't take gifts lightly. Neither do I, Maya said. So let's not waste them. They didn't. The next months were a study in balance. At work, they maintained professionalism. Made decisions together but always with the company's interests first. Maya's team respected her. Darius's board trusted his judgment. The relationship remained disclosed, monitored, appropriate. But outside work, they built something neither had expected. A partnership that honored both their strengths. Darius pushed Maya to think bigger, take risks, believe in her capabilities. Maya grounded Darius, reminded him that immortality didn't mean invincibility, that connection required vulnerability. They fought sometimes, about strategy, about boundaries, about the future. But they fought fair, with respect. With the understanding that disagreement didn't mean dissolution. 6 months in, Maya met the other vampires in Darius's circle. Old friends, business partners, people who'd known him for decades. They were kind to her, welcoming. But she saw the sadness in their eyes, the unspoken knowledge that she was temporary in a way they weren't. One of them, a woman named Celeste who'd known Darius for 150 years, pulled Maya aside. He loves you, she said. Really loves you. I've never seen him like this. Maya didn't know what to say. You're worried about time, Celeste continued, about what happens when you age and he doesn't. You're wondering if this is fair to either of you. Yes, Maya admitted. Celeste smiled sadly. I won't lie to you. It's hard, watching someone you love experience mortality while you don't. knowing every year brings them closer to an end you can't face. But you know what's harder? Never having loved them at all. Never having taken the chance. I've watched Darius exist for a century and a half. Exist. Not live. You make him live. That's worth the pain that comes later. Is it though? When the pain is inevitable? The pain is always inevitable, Celeste said. Humans hurt too. They lose partners to accidents, illnesses, choices. At least with this, you know he'll remember you forever. You'll never really leave him. You'll be part of his story for eternity. That's a kind of immortality. The conversation stayed with Maya. That night she asked Darius the question she'd been avoiding. What happens when I'm 60 and you still look 30? He didn't hesitate. I'll love you at 60 the same way I love you now. Maybe more, because I'll have had 3 more decades of knowing you. What happens when I'm sick? When I'm dying? I'll be there. Every moment. Holding your hand. Making sure you're not afraid. Making sure you know how much you mattered. And after? After. His voice roughened. I'll grieve. I'll hurt. I'll carry you with me for the rest of my very long life. And eventually, maybe in another century or 2, I'll be grateful I had you at all instead of regretting that I lost you. Maya's eyes burned. That's not fair to you. Life isn't fair. Love isn't fair. But it's still worth it. She believed him. A year in, Morrison Media had tripled its revenue. Maya's department had won multiple awards. The company culture had transformed. People were invested. Engaged, creating their best work. And at the center of it all, 2 people who'd learned that the best partnerships were built on seeing each other clearly. Not despite complications, but including them. Maya stood in Darius's office late one night, looking at the city lights they'd looked at together so many times. You were right, she said. About what? The lights. Every one is a story. A person trying, fighting for something that matters. Darius moved beside her. And I'm glad I'm one of them. Glad I chose trying over safety. Glad I swiped left that night, because it led me here. He took her hand. Even knowing how it ends? Especially knowing how it ends. Because the ending isn't what matters. The trying is what matters. The choosing is what matters. This, right now, is what matters. They stood together, watching the city. 2 people who'd found each other across the gap between immortality and mortality. Who'd learned that time's value wasn't in its length but in its depth. Who'd discovered that being truly seen was worth any cost. Below them, the light spread out like possibilities, like stories waiting to be written, like futures uncertain but chosen anyway. And for now, for this moment, for however many moments they'd get, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Months turned into years. Maya stayed human. Darius stayed vampire. The complications they'd worried about arrived as predicted. Curious looks when they were in public together. Questions about the age gap that would only grow more obvious. Concerns from Maya's friends about the inherent power imbalance. But they navigated it all. With honesty. With boundaries. With a relationship built on mutual respect and genuine partnership. At work, they remained professional. Maya's career flourished on its own merit. She turned down opportunities to leverage her relationship with Darius, instead building her reputation through the quality of her work. 3 years in, she was recruited by a major agency. Triple the salary. Prestigious title. Her dream job. She almost didn't tell Darius. Almost decided on her own. But that wasn't who they were. They made decisions together. I think you should take it, he said when she finally showed him the offer. You do? It's an incredible opportunity. It's what you've been working toward your entire career. But we work together. That's one of the things that makes us work. We can adapt. We've adapted to everything else. This is different. Yes, Maya said. It is, because this is me choosing my career over us. That's not choosing one over the other. That's choosing yourself, your growth, your potential. I want that for you even if it complicates things for us. What if it doesn't work? Long distance. Different schedules. Not seeing each other every day. Then we'll figure it out. Or we won't. But you'll never forgive yourself if you don't try, and I'll never forgive myself if I'm the reason you don't. She took the job. Moved across the country. They did long distance. Visits every other weekend. Video calls. Text messages. Learning to maintain intimacy across distance. It was hard. Harder than either expected. But it also proved something. That what they had wasn't dependent on proximity. Wasn't dependent on convenience, was built on something stronger than circumstance. 2 years of long distance. Then Maya's company opened an office in Darius's city. She requested the transfer. Came home. They'd survived the separation, proven they could maintain individual identities while still being partners. The relationship deepened. On Maya's 35th birthday, Darius gave her a gift. Not jewelry, not anything expensive. A leather-bound journal. Inside, the first page had a note in his precise handwriting. For recording the story we're writing together. So someday, long after you're gone, I can read it and remember every detail. Every moment, every choice that led us here. Maya cried. Not from sadness. From the recognition that he understood. That he valued their time together enough to want to preserve every moment. That he wasn't afraid of the ending because the middle was so rich. She started writing that night. Not just about the big moments, but the small ones. The morning coffees, the late-night conversations, the fights and reconciliations, the way he looked at her, the way she felt seen. By her 40th birthday, the journal was nearly full. She'd documented 5 years of partnership, of growth, of learning to love someone who would outlive you by centuries. Of learning to be loved by someone who saw your mortality not as a flaw but as something precious precisely because it was temporary. They were at dinner when Maya asked the question she'd been holding. Would you turn me, if I asked? Would you make me vampire so we could have forever? Darius set down his wine glass. His expression was serious. No. Even if I begged? Even then. Why not? Because, he said carefully, immortality isn't a gift. It's a condition, and it's not one I would choose for you. But we could have more time. We could have eternity. At what cost? You'd lose the very thing that makes you who you are. Your mortality gives you urgency. Purpose. The understanding that time matters because it's limited. Take that away and you'd become someone different. Maybe better in some ways. But not you. Not the person I fell in love with. So you'd rather lose me? I'd rather love you exactly as you are for whatever time we get than change you into something else for more time. That's not loving you. That's loving the idea of keeping you. There's a difference. Maya absorbed this. Felt the weight of it. The respect in it. The love. What about when I'm old? When I'm not, she gestured at herself. This anymore? He reached across the table. Took her hand. I will love you when you're 50. When you're 70. When you're 90. I will love your gray hair and your wrinkles and your changing body, because they'll be evidence of a life fully lived. Evidence of time we spent together. Evidence that you chose to age with me instead of resenting the fact that I don't age with you. You've really thought about this. I've thought about nothing else for 7 years. Every scenario, every possibility, every fear you have, I've had it too. And I keep coming back to the same truth. I don't want forever with a version of you I created. I want every moment I can get with the real you. Even when those moments run out, especially then, because that's when they'll matter most. They didn't talk about it again. Maya understood. accepted, even felt grateful for the clarity. At 45, Maya's hair started going gray. She didn't dye it. Darius loved it, called it silver, said it made her look distinguished. At 50, lines appeared at the corners of her eyes. Darius traced them with his fingers. Evidence of laughter, he said. Evidence of life. Evidence of us. The world noticed the age gap more now. Stares in restaurants. Assumptions that Darius was her son or her assistant. Comments from strangers. Once at a business dinner, someone asked Maya if she was Darius's mother. He handled it with grace. "We're partners," he said simply. "In business and in life." The person had been embarrassed, apologetic. But later, in the car, Maya broke down. "I'm holding you back," she said. "People see us together, and they judge. They assume things. Let them assume. I don't care what people think. You should. You run a major corporation. You have a reputation to maintain. My reputation is built on results, not appearances. And my results speak for themselves. What about in 10 years? 20? When the gap is even more obvious. Then we'll handle it the same way we handle everything else. Together. With honesty. Without shame." He pulled the car over, looked at her directly. "Maya, I have lived 254 years. I have been through wars, plagues, revolutions. I have watched empires fall and technologies transform the world. None of it matters as much as the fact that I get to love you. I don't care if you're 50 or 80 or 100. I don't care what people think. I care about you, about us, about the life we're building together. The life we're building has an expiration date. All lives have expiration dates. Even mine, eventually. The universe will end someday. Nothing is forever. But what we have right now, in this moment, is real, and I choose that reality over the fantasy of forever." At 55, Maya retired from her agency position. Not because she had to, because she wanted to. Wanted time for other things. Writing. Mentoring. Spending time with Darius without the demands of corporate schedules. They traveled. Saw the world. Darius showed her places he'd lived over the centuries. Told her stories of different eras. Shared his history in a way he'd never shared with anyone. In Rome, standing in front of buildings he'd seen being constructed, he talked about the impermanence of empires. In Paris, walking streets he'd walked during the Revolution, he talked about the cost of change. In Tokyo, surrounded by technology he'd never imagined possible, he talked about adaptability. And Maya documented it all. Not just in her journal, but in her mind. In her heart. Learning to see the world through the eyes of someone who'd lived multiple lifetimes. At 60, Maya's body started slowing down. Not dramatically, not debilitatingly, just the natural progression of age. Darius adapted without comment. Slower walks, more rest breaks, patience with her changing needs. He never made her feel diminished, never treated her like she was fragile, just adjusted naturally to meet her where she was. They'd been together 20 years. 20 years of partnership, of growth, of learning that love wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone who saw your imperfections and chose you anyway. Maya's 65th birthday was quiet. Dinner at home. Just the two of them. Darius cooked, something he'd learned to do over the centuries. They ate slowly. Talked about everything and nothing. After dinner, Maya gave Darius her journal. All of them now. 7 volumes spanning 2 decades. For you, she said. For after, he held them like they were precious. Irreplaceable. I'm going to read these every year, he said. On your birthday. So I never forget a single detail of loving you. Promise me something. Anything. Don't stop living after I'm gone. Don't spend the next century grieving. Find someone else eventually. Let yourself love again. Maya, promise me. You deserve happiness. You deserve connection. And my ghost will haunt you if you spend eternity alone just because you lost me. He smiled through tears. Blood tears, vampire tears. Your ghost would be terrifying. I mean it. Live. For both of us. I promise. he said. But it won't be the same. It shouldn't be. Every love is different. That's what makes them precious. They held each other as the candles burned down. Two people who'd found each other against impossible odds, who'd built a life together despite knowing it would end, who'd chosen love anyway.